Oh, it's good to see y'all. All right. Start thinking about playing at BYU. I've never, we've got a couple coaches. Antonio Huffman's been there whenever he was with Coach Leach at Washington State. And DeRuyter actually played, I think, the first game ever in that stadium. And I think it was 1982 against Steve Young. But he's also coached against BYU there. And just talking to them, they talk about what a great atmosphere it is. So I'm really excited, really big fan of their head coach. Kalani is, man, a first-class guy. He's got a phenomenal energy. Got to coach against him in 2021 whenever Baylor and BYU played, and so excited to see him. I've got to know him a little bit, with the merge of them coming into the Big 12, the last two Big 12 conference meetings. So excited to play in an atmosphere like that. So guys that we're getting back this week, Bryce Ramirez and Braylon Lux will both play on Saturday. Excited to get them back. Guys that are game time decisions, and it's really through the week. Like CJ Baskerville, I think we'll know by Wednesday. So he'll be more of, we'll know for sure on Wednesday if he can go. He's got a strained ligament in his knee. Baron Morton's more game time. Mason Tharp's game time, and Cole Spencer's game time. I think that's the majority of guys that played or were possibly going to play against K-State. The other guys I think you already know are out. So with that, I will open up for any questions.
Coach, is there any update on Jacob Rodriguez? I know you just didn't.
Yeah, I was going to put him as game time, but I really think it's going to be TCU. The thing that we're kind of going back, and Jacob and I had a great conversation, is the one thing with him, he's running now. It was his foot. It wasn't to where it was a Liz Frank, but it was right there in that area, and so we shut him down. I told him, I said, I want you to be 100%, because what I don't want is him to go out there and hurt something else because he's overcompensating for that. So he's in a good spot. I would not like 100% ruling him out for this week, but I want him to be to where he's 100% like, Coach, I know I can go and go out and play. And so, I feel good. We've got BYU, and then we've got the bye, and then TCU. And so it's a good chance to get a few guys back, 100% wise. So I think Jacob's more TCU.
I'm just curious about your travel plans this week. I know that you weren't exactly happy with how things went in Laramie with the going up a day early and all that. So I'm just curious what you're doing this week.
Yeah, and it was more like I didn't think it affected us as much in the altitude here and the altitude there. There's not a whole lot of difference, and so we feel like we're in good shape. The one thing we are doing different, we're going to do like we did against Baylor. We're going to fly into Provo. We're going straight to the stadium, to see the stadium. It's a grass field, so get out there and run around a little bit, know where our locker room is, and then we'll drive to Salt Lake City because we're staying in Salt Lake City. So that's the only difference really this week travel-wise.
And what are you seeing from BYU on both sides of the ball? It seems like they do a little bit more through the air on offense, and maybe can't get as much going in the run game as other teams have this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as far as them running the football. They're a lot like with Coach Grimes coming from BYU and that staff being familiar, and Coach Grimes, the OC at Baylor. So you're going to get some of the wide zone. They do a little bit of pin and pull. You're going to get some insert, like inside zone. Got young running backs. They're starting a freshman running back, actually, from El Paso, West Texas kid. Really good running back, but they've got a seasoned vet. I think I know Coach DeRuyter's played him before, and I think he was at USC whenever he was playing quarterback. And so they do. They throw right now, what I was doing before this, for the press conference, I was watching Kansas, BYU, and he threw for 357 yards and 2 touchdowns. And so they've got a really talented tight end, number 83, and they've got 2 big, long receivers, number 1 and number 2. I think 2's his favorite target, wide receiver-wise, but, they do a good job throwing the football. So, I expect kind of the same. I mean, they're going to come out. They've got to, run the ball. It's different times. It's going to be a lot, again, like Baylor's run game. And so we've got to do a good job up front to try to make them one-dimensional and see if we can't get after the quarterback.
Hey, Coach, how is Barron coming out of the weekend? And then if he can't go, what does the quarterback depth chart look like behind Jake, the second and third at BYU?
Yeah, so Barron, I mean, he's really sore. Saw him this morning. He was in getting treatment, but in good spirits. I mean, frustrated. I'll tell you, I've been around a lot of players that have come out of games, and I don't know if I've seen a person more upset, than Barron was, that we were taking him out. I've seen, a couple guys, but, he's really – because he's so important to him. But he's feeling good and he's just really sore. Jake, feel great about Jake. I thought he did some really good things, and so was Jake. Brady Boyd would take all the twos. And then we got a couple guys, trying to decide who that third guy will be. The travel, because you go into a 70-man roster, in Big 12. And so who that would be is really kind of going to be dependent on Tuesday and Wednesday of, like, who can do certain things. We feel good. Brady's been taking snaps with Barron kind of beat up and not taking so many snaps during practice. So feel really good about him if, he ends up having to go into the game. We'll have a, special package for him to where it eliminates some stuff, but he'll also bring a different, possibly a different look to the game too, because now all of a sudden quarterback run game totally changes with what he can do in that part of the offense.
There's a lot of talk about play selection coming out Saturday, but why is the passing game not executed consistently this season, in your opinion? What was going into that?
We're different. I think we're different definitely than we were the first two games and where we are now. It's a mixture. I mean, I think one of the things coming out of the game on Saturday is really challenging guys to be more physical in their routes and whenever things break down, the scramble drill comes into account and getting open. I mean, you go back and you look in that game, and some of our receivers I thought got pushed around. Now, some of those pushes arounds, it's kind of interesting that Malik gets called on one thing and some of the other stuff don't get called, but that's just the thing that you get right now in the game of football of objective calls and judgment calls and stuff like that. And so I think that's one of the things, but I also think because we are running the football more than what we have in the past, it's more, instead of the true air raid spread, you're getting more play action, stuff like that. And so we did throw the ball more because we were behind this last week, but I think you're seeing more of that. But the challenge is, again, too, is, man, we got to find ways to get open. And I thought Miles Price did a good job with that. I thought Coy Aiken did a good job with that. We were really trying to get Dre going, and we didn't get him going the other night. And so, Bradley made a big contested catch for that touchdown. Again, it's always interesting. It was a touchdown, definitely, but how you don't get a flag on that play, too, is always kind of interesting. I guess the result was a touchdown, so that's why it wasn't. But I think it's, really kind of getting open. But I think it's more the style of what we're trying to do offensively, because that's what we're successful with right now.
Coach, when trailing at halftime, the team is 0-3. What do you accredit to maybe that inability to make that comeback or just that final drive to push the team over the edge?
Not protecting the football. I mean, if you think about it, we're down at half. We go up with a 99-yard drive, and then we turn the ball over 3 times. You go back to Oregon. We go up 9 in the third quarter. I believe we were down at halftime then. I can't remember, but then we turned the ball over 2 times. That's more than anything of probably those 3. I imagine that those 3 losses being down at halftime, we turned the ball over the most in the second half. What What was that? Do you know what were the 3 games? I know this last week we turned the ball over 3 times.
Last week, it
Probably
was
West Virginia,
West Virginia,
which we had.
and
I know we had a turnover, and probably Oregon. Probably those 3. You know, and so a lot of it's not taking care of the football.
Just talking on that, you're playing a team that's 4th in the Big 12 in turnover margin, while you're 11th in the. What goes into practice this week that maybe changes that?
You know, I think that one thing that they're doing a good job of, you know, they've got some guys that are intercepting the ball. You know, they turn the ball over. TCU did a good job against them, forcing turnovers. I mean, the first touchdown for TCU was a pick 6. I think it was like the 3rd play of the game. You know, and so a couple of we got to catch the ball that are thrown to us. You know, we have an interception on a touchdown drive. We're up 21-17. We get a face mask call that would have got us off the field. And then we got a ball that hits us right in the hands, and we drop the interception like 4 plays later. And so some of that is, you know, making sure we catch the balls that are thrown to us. We've got to continue to try to create pressure on the quarterback. And then with us, we've got to protect the ball better. You know, I think we talked about it a little bit Saturday, but after watching it, I mean, Jake could be the first ones to tell you, too, the 3 interceptions were, you know, one was fixed to be a big play, wait a half a second longer, X clears the linebacker, so then you don't have to try to get it over the linebacker. The ball doesn't sell. Now you've got a big play to X. So just being patient there. 3 over 2 versus 2 over 2. I'm taking the 2 over 2 side every time. You know, just youth of not going in that way. And so I think it's just us as coaches and the players just, you know, really concentrating on, hey, getting into good plays and taking care of the ball better.
Lighter note, I know with all the quarterback shuffling, Ben Roberts is having a great season, but he did play a little bit of quarterback in high school. Is there any consideration throwing him maybe
That's
for
a good
couple of
job,
reps?
man. I'm sure he would love to. You know, Ben is, man. I'm proud of him. It's fun to watch. You know, my man Dowdy can give you the exact numbers. He told me before, because we were just talking about injuries and everything, and like the exact numbers of guys that were out on Saturday, the numbers of games played, and the numbers of starts of guys that we missed on Saturday. He can tell you the exact ones, but that's what's crazy, man. I mean, Ben's having a great year, and, man, I can't wait at some point this year to see Ben Roberts and Jacob Rodriguez on the field at the same time. You know, not saying that the other guys that are in there aren't doing a good job, but, you know, you definitely, you know, have 2 of our better linebackers that are going to be on the field at the same time, hopefully really soon. And saying all that injury stuff, there's no excuses. I mean, you know, I'm proud of the guys that have come in and taken places, and really, you know, it's a tribute to those players that have come in to play that, you know, we're battling in games, you know, with guys that were at one point probably more role players that are now starters.
Coach, you talked about it. BYU, not a program I would assume most of your players or even coaches are very familiar with. And with the quarterback situation being what it is this week, I would imagine preparation is a little different than a typical conference game. So what does that look like going into this weekend?
Well, I mean, you know, the really good program. I mean, one of the strongest at one point. Now they're with the Big 12 independent schools. They play a national schedule. So, you know, they've done a great job, and they do a good job. You know, with us, because it really kind of stays the same from the standpoint, like if Barron wasn't already banged up, you know, that is really the last 2 starts, then it would look a little bit, or the last 3 starts, Houston, you know, Baylor and K-State, it would look a little bit different. But Jake's been getting a lot of those reps when Barron couldn't throw. And so as far as that, you know, it'd be the same thing as far as getting him ready to go. The difference will be he was taking a lot of the 1s and the 2s as far as in the passing game. You know, now Brady will take a lot of the 2 reps, you know, just to get him ready to go.
Game about running the ball a little bit more in the second half after watching the film, and I know you couldn't later when you were down a couple of scores, but after that first interception, I mean, in hindsight, do you think more Taj would have calmed everybody down a little bit more?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of a mixture because we ran the ball. It was just some was with Cameron, and so we had both of those guys going. But, going back, late whenever we got down 31-21, we were trying to, get back in it. But I think without a doubt, you go back and you look, and I went back and looked, and when we met yesterday, I literally read off the 9 carries he had in the second half. There was 1 carry that he had for 1 yard. I think that 1 yard, though, was to get the 1 yard to get a first down, and then everything after that was 3 yards or more. And so whenever you look at that right there, it's like, we got to keep leaning on our run game, and I definitely think that Jake, with the experience of throwing the ball in a game, if he's forced into action on Saturday, or if he's the guy on Saturday, I think he's going to be a lot more. I think the pressure will not be as heavy on him, but I still think, like you said, I mean, we've got to lean on Taj and Cameron as much as we can, just because, one, we're doing a good job at running the football, and number 2, I think our offensive line is doing a good job run blocking.
Stuff during a game, but is there ever a situation where you go to Zach and say, "Hey, let's do this," as opposed to what you guys are thinking?
Yeah, we're talking to it. I mean, I'm on both headsets, and I'm flipping back and forth, and then talking to Kenny on special teams. The tough thing, I would say on the 1 interception going into the end zone, probably play call right there, really not exactly where we want to be. And again, where we are on the field, you probably kind of like the West Virginia want to take a couple of shots with Taj. But, the first interception, go back and watch that, and you wonder how there's no flag. Like, holy moly. Like, we forced the ball probably a little bit, but Miles gets hit way before that ball gets there, and so really interesting. The second one, though, man, I love the play call. I'm telling you, you go back and watch that one that he's trying to get over the linebacker. He's be the first one to tell you, man, give me a half a second. No pressure was on him. We had a great pocket, and here comes X, and it's going to be a foot race to see if the far side corner can tackle X, because he was already past the safety that intercepted the ball, or is about to be past the safety that intercepted the ball. And so, that second interception, I mean, it was a really good play call.
I know you said you guys haven't been as active on 4th down because you haven't had quite the success to set yourselves up on 3rd down. You're playing against a BYU team that struggles to get off the field on 3rd down. What have you seen in terms of being able to attack them in those situations?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because they're really good on 4th down. I think they're one of the best in the country on 4th down. That's going to be interesting because they have been a analytics team. So you've got 2 teams that play a lot of 4th down. But I do think we're going to we'll have a really good plan on 3rd down. I mean, it's interesting because they at different times play great defense, I guess kind of a little bit like us, and then inconsistent because we have been really inconsistent on 3rd down defense, to where at different times we've played at a really high level, and at different times we haven't played at a really high level. And so that you've got a couple teams that defensively, kind of who wins that 3rd down is going to dictate a lot of the game.
After this game, you guys won't step back onto the field until November. Is there any extra emphasis in terms of heading into that bye week, heading into the stretch run of the season on a positive note?
Yeah, I think I think it's where we are right now in the season. You've got some critical games, this one being one of them, and what you got for the rest of the season of trying to reach some goals that we have. And so I think guys understand where we're at. I think we're going to have a great week of practice. I think we'll definitely be ready to play and play with a lot of passion. And it's a big game because you definitely want to go into that bye week with a win. You're having a team that just had a great game. I mean, BYU and BYU are coming off of 2 tough games. I mean, TCU really got after them, and late in the game, K-State really got after us. And so, but, both teams, this is a really important game. It's their homecoming. It's going to be a packed house. And then with us going in the bye week, we would definitely want to go in the bye week on a high note.
Coach, a lot has been made about quarterbacks checking from a pass play to a run play or a run play to a pass play for all three of the quarterbacks now. That is part of the nature of that position and getting you guys into the right play. What percentage of times this season, on average, would you say your players have checked into the correct play that they needed to do to get the offense going where it needs to go?
I think one thing that you see, it's kind of a mix. Taj is really special. We see that. I mean, he sometimes makes something out of nothing being hit at the line of scrimmage. And you saw that at different times the other night. And I think our offensive line feels very comfortable in some of the gap schemes that we're running right now. But I think, some of the big plays that we're having in the run game, and we're so much more explosive. I think we've had 31 rushes over 10 that are 10-plus yards this year, which is night and day from last year. I mean, night and day from last year. It's not even comparable. And I think you would say a high percentage of those are being checked into run plays, that have the right box. When you start running the football a little bit more, then you're probably checking into more run plays. I think Jarrett made the comment of the lack of some of our passing yards. I think we're 73 in the country right now in passing yards, per game. And some of it's the nature of the offense running the ball more, and some of it's not getting in the right plays. I would say we are a little bit less in the passing game where we want to go with the ball. Some of the checks that we've made, you go back to the Oregon game, the interception after the block punt, we checked into that and wish we would have stayed with what we called. So some of it also, I think we talked about this Saturday. I think Zach did a good job with Jake of helping him. You saw more looked over at the sideline and trying to help him get into the right play, and we'll continue to do that to try to take a little bit of pressure off of him whenever he's in the game.
The average fan is asking this question where you've got 2 times this season, you've got your backup quarterback being thrust into action because of an injury, and it feels like you go from a team that's running the ball at that point to let's air it out, as opposed to having a chance to let the guy calm down, maybe some quick passes, use Taj a little bit more in those running situations. What's the reasoning for it feels like that switch in the offense when that happens?
I don't know if it is. I would think that, like me, I actually have an end note on this, but like me, I think if it works, we're behind it. If it doesn't, we're critical. And definitely understand that, I totally understand it. I do think Jake is a little bit different, so I can understand that because you're talking about a true freshman that hadn't played in the game. I don't consider Baron Morton a backup other than Tyler was named the starter and Baron wasn't. I mean, Baron's started games through for, 400 yards against Oklahoma State. West Virginia is one game. So we weren't going to change anything with Baron, as far as whenever they were coming to the game. So I think it's a little bit different in that situation. I do think, without a doubt, great question as far as hindsight of going back and thinking, hey, do we run it more with Taj whenever Jake had to come in the game? I think probably more of a balance with Jake would have probably helped him out a little bit. But, again, I think, you go back to the interceptions because he threw some really good balls. He threw some really big balls. Threw a touchdown in the end zone to, Bradley. And so on that side, it worked, so we're behind it. When it doesn't, we're against it. And he's trained to run this offense, and we've got to let him do it. But you also saw the offense a little bit different, too, to where he didn't have as much say-so as far as what he was checking into versus looking over the sideline. Because with Barron and Tyler, we were letting them run the offense and, trying to put them in the best play and the best checks we could. But they both of those guys do a great job as vets. So one thing we got to continue to do whenever Jake's in there is try to take some off his plate. Part of that off his plate is, we got to find ways to run Taj more, be more effective in the run game whenever they do load the box, and say, hey, stay in this run or check to this run versus check into a pass play.
Joey, is Barron dealing with anything more than his shoulder?
Well, he's got really, that last hit, he's got a really sore back. I mean, we should have got the ball, should have thrown it away. We didn't, took an unnecessary hit right there. But you see that one, man. They get him pretty good between the shoulder blades. And so when I got here yesterday and went into the training room, he's in there. He's got, 2 heating pads on his shoulders and it's been in the front, been in the back. So he's dealing with a lot of aches and pains because those 3 shots were pretty heavy. The concern, though, is that shoulder, of making sure that he can be at the percentage he was going into Houston, Baylor, and K-State. He wasn't there on Saturday, and so we couldn't put him back in the game.
But he was not concussed, though, at any point?
No.
What's Mike Dingle's status this week?
It's his shoulder that he hurt during whenever he was in high school. He banged it up again. If he gets strength back, I didn't have him on here, I should have, but if he gets strength back, he'll be able to play.
And I was wondering, since he's still in the window, he's at the limit now with 4 games, and since you got John Curry got in the other night, is there any consideration at all to redshirting Dingle?
There is, just because of it's again, he got a shoulder stinger, so it's like, can I get full strength back? He's played in 4 games. It's one of those deals like when Jacobs comes back, do you need him? So can you redshirt him? Or is he going to play enough snaps to where, that you don't redshirt, that you play him? Because it changes a lot with Jacob back, because now your depth goes with Ben Roberts, Jacob Rodriguez, Josiah Pierre, Ty Matthews, Bryce Ramirez, not counting the young guys like John Curry. John Curry, played really well on special teams, so we used one of his games there. I expect him to travel to BYU, so he'll be able to use another game there. Really, he was coming. That's what we're trying to do with some of those young guys that aren't ready to play, a majority of the snaps, is try to get them played on special teams.
And I know I asked you this last week regarding Jacob Rodriguez, but now you say if you pushed him back to TCU, there's only four regular season games left in that instance, and I don't know, maybe you get an exemption for bowl game.
Yeah,
this
you
year.
do. They changed that rule, so that's a good thing. Any postseason play, you get an exemption. So we have discussed that. Jacob and I talked about it last week of like, okay, if you're not back for BYU and you are for TCU, do we play 3 of the 4, and take the red shirt? And so it's been discussed. We're talking about it, and we'll both make that decision of what's best for him and the team. And it's always good if I could have Jacob for 2 more years, not counting this year, and be in a good situation to do that. I just got one thing real quick. I just wanted to tell y'all, we were talking about the fans and everything. Like, I'm a fan. Like, I get it. Like, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. They broke my heart for the last couple of decades, and I totally get it. Like, I understand how frustrated our fans are. And trust me, I am too. I've said that before. But what I do want to do is thank them. I want to thank them for, like, our student section was unreal Saturday night. And it just continues to be. And we had a packed house, and it was we have such a great environment. And so, what I would say is, one, thank you, and I would tell you this, no matter how you feel, this team hadn't given up. This team comes to work every day. We've had a ton of kids in here already to do extra on an off day. They're going to be here tonight on their own watching film. And so, for the Red Raider fans, man, we need you. I know there's a bunch going out to Provo for the BYU game, but we're going to need you on Thursday in a couple weeks against TCU. And so as frustrated as you are, and I feel your frustration and totally understand it and I can appreciate it, I've always said and I always will, say whatever you want about me. But one thing about these players, they haven't given up. They're not going to give up. They're proud of, being Red Raiders. And so don't give up on them. Show up, be the Red Raiders that we know you are. And just for me, thank you for everything you're doing for these players. So I appreciate that. Thank y'all.
Coach, just curious, what was Kansas State doing that was making Johnson, had the holes wide open? It seemed like y'all weren't able to, get penetration.
They were running a lot of triple option concepts with some counter flow, adding an extra runner when you get into spread sets and extra tight ends and the quarterback becomes a runner, you have to add an extra guy in the fit, and we weren't doing a very good job. They're running some things that they hadn't really shown on tape. They'd done it a couple times. We showed it to our guys, but didn't extensively have a package against it, and we've got to do a better job of adjusting on those.
And kind of similarly, what are you seeing from BYU? Seems like they throw the ball quite a bit and maybe not so.
Yeah, it makes sense. They've got Keaton Slovis, very veteran quarterback. I think he was still at USC back when I was a couple schools ago. Very strong-armed guy. They've got some veteran receivers, a lot of long guys that can run, throws a really good vertical ball. He's got a strong arm, can throw it, the outcut to the field. So you got to worry about that. They're going to, try to establish the run game and get throws off of it. Not a traditional RPO-ish type offense, but more traditional play action, bootlegs, those type of things. They want to mix it up. They're about 50-50 run pass, but right now the pass, they've had more explosive plays out of that than the run.
And it seemed like to me that Tony and Jalen had probably their best game getting penetration. What did you see from them, and obviously the defensive line as a whole?
Well, I think they've both been pretty consistent, which has been something we want to get everybody to do. Jay Boog in particular has been really, really consistent. Tony, the last couple of weeks, I think, has been playing really well. Both those guys have been consistent in their technique and playing extremely hard. And, it shows up in the production sheets. And, as we finish this year, I hope they continue to get better and better each week like they have been. And if they do, they're both poised to really help us in the run game and throw game.
BYU is averaging 3.2 yards per punt return. How does that kind of help your defense to not have to worry as much about the special teams or the offense starting so high up the field?
Anytime you can make an offense go longer distance, just statistically, they're not going to score as many points. And so I think our special teams have done a really good job this year in gaining hidden yardage, whether we're covering kicks or returning kicks. And so hopefully we're going to have a lot of defensive players on special teams, and our guys understand that is one of the key elements of a football game is being special on special teams. It's number 4 on our list of how to win games. And if we can continue to keep them in that 3 or less return average, hopefully we'll do a better job in stopping people.
And then BYU currently ranks bottom of the Big 12 in their rushing yards per game. How do you continue to keep that there, not let them have some breakout game against y'all?
Well, it's like every week. You've got to do a great job of setting edges in their outside running game. You've got to fit things correctly when they do some split flow action things, and it's all about eyes, hands, and feet, and trying to be physical at the point of attack and not be undisciplined with your gaps.
Coach, it seems like you have maybe the most experience coaching or playing against BYU. How important is it to win this game at this point in the season?
I mean, every game's critical. You get into Big 12 games, and that's what you play for. It's what you coach for. And you got to win on the road. And so for us, we don't look at it, hey, what happened last week? We're going to change anything this week. It's every week is a season into and unto itself. And we have got to do a great job of getting our guys prepared. We've got to have 2 great practices on Tuesday, Wednesday, where we can be physical, because we got to do a great job in the run game. And then we got to pressure this quarterback. When he's comfortable, he does a really nice job because he's got a good arm. He's got a lot of experience. He's got experienced receivers. They know how to exploit zone defenses, and they can run away from man people. So we got to do a great job disguising and pressuring the quarterback.
Is there any sort of is there any sort of frustration about kind of allowing that much in the second half after the last 2 weeks? Before that, you had been so good at shutting out teams in the second half.
Well, I think there's frustration anytime you give up more yards or points than what you anticipate. You've got to do a better job during the week coaching of anticipating, maybe they're going to the backup quarterback, and that's on coaches. We've got to do a better job. I got to do a better job. Our guys will play hard. I know that. Our guys will play good fundamental football. We've got to give them advantages at times scheme-wise, and other times we've got to get those guys to strike, get off blocks, and tackle better. Kansas State, I thought, did a good job of getting us spread out and, adding an extra guy in the run game by having the quarterback be part of the run game.
Hey, Coach, I know we already just kind of spoke upon the run game, but 3 of the 7 games this season, the rushing leader for the opposing team has been the quarterback. That wasn't the case this past week, but obviously the 5 rushing touchdowns there as well. I guess I know that the day and age and the dual threat option with the quarterbacks, but I guess what have you seen really change, especially within this past year, with the quarterback having so much success on the ground?
Well, I think you're right. Three of the games the quarterback was leading rusher. The first 2, they were really not primary rushers. It was due to the fact that I think we did a decent job stopping their primary running game. In pressuring the quarterback, we didn't do a very good job of rush lane distribution, and quarterbacks got out. Those yards all count, but it really wasn't what we saw this last weekend. This weekend was designed quarterback runs, adding an extra guy in the into the running attack. And we've got to do a better job of fitting those things. And so, as I see it, it's 2 different types of quarterback running attacks, one being a result of a pass rush not being disciplined enough, and the other, having a better idea of its quarterback run with this particular quarterback in. We made some adjustments to some of their sets that we had seen, but, obviously we didn't practice against it because we hadn't seen it.
Coach, I know once you guys get on the field, the atmosphere doesn't matter, but as somebody that's played there and coached there, what makes that atmosphere special? Because that's what we've heard about with them coming into the league.
Yeah, no, I've been there plenty of times, and in fact, this is how old I am. I was there the first game that they dedicated the new stadium back in 1982 when I was playing at the Air Force Academy. They do a tremendous job of getting support from their fans. I think every time I've been there, it's been sold out or right close to it. The way they design the stadium, it's a vertical design, and it's enclosed, and it's one of the louder stadiums, I think, in the country. They've got a great tradition there of success, going back to back when I played and Coach Edwards was there, and Coach Siktaki and his staff has continued that. They've always been very, very good in the pass game. They've traditionally been a very power run game team and been very difficult to beat at home. And so we know it's going to be a challenge. Their fans do a great job of supporting them, and we're going to have to overcome that just like you do every time you go on the road in the Big 12. There's a lot of great venues, and certainly with them coming into the Big 12, they're going to be right up there with any of the best venues that we have.
For you.
Back in 1982, the Falcons were 1-0. So we got them. They had Steve Young. I told Coach McGuire he made me look bad on a play, but we went 99 yards in a wishbone offense with a minute and a half left, scored, and went for two and ended up beating them with less than 10 seconds left.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned you made some adjustments when Kansas State kept going with the quarterback run game. What were some of those adjustments?
Well, I can't go into all the detail of what we do. But clearly what you've got to do is when they get into the three-back sets is get guys that normally we're seeing one-back sets or two-back sets, your eyes have to change. And so getting into guys in a position where they're going to have better leverage points. But they did a good job of getting people spread. And even though you're setting an edge, if you're too wide, there's more room inside of you. There's more room for whoever's that inside fitter to maybe not make a tackle as well as you would have if everything's in tight. So in a nutshell, it's getting guys to understand what they were doing, who needs to set edges, and how we've got to get it compressed.
Collier kind of took my question. I was going to ask you if you had any favorite game memory of playing at BYU, either as player or coach. Did you ever have any other big win there, or maybe from a coaching standpoint?
From a coaching standpoint, the last time I was there, I think I was at Cal, and we went there, and it was a really close football game. We ended up beating them. In fact, Coach Grimes was the offensive coordinator there at the time, so he and I have got a little history together the last few years. But every game that I've gone there, it's one that that they're going to play extremely well. They're very well coached. They're going to play extremely hard, and they play just like we do at home. They play at a different level when they're at home, and so we anticipate a great challenge that we need to be up for.
Did you tackle Steve Young a few times that day?
That day I missed him, and he got out around me, so I was getting explained to by the coach why I should not be doing that.
As somebody who always appreciated the Service Academy option game, what was Marty Louthan like from your standpoint?
That's a name from the past. Marty Louthan was actually my flight commander in 18th Squadron. Was a year older than me. Marty was a tremendous athlete from Eugene, Oregon. He was a guy that, he was a true general on the field. Nothing fazed him. It didn't matter who we were playing. He wasn't the fastest guy in the world. He didn't have the best arm, but he was a true quarterback. And I thought one of the best quarterbacks Air Force has ever had. How'd you know Marty?
Just
pulled it up?
Well, no, I remember him.
Oh, okay.
So I was looking up to see who the quarterback was that year.
Yeah, no, Marty, he was the quarterback the first time that the Air Force Academy had ever beaten Notre Dame, and he went on to beat them as the quarterback 3 straight times, and he's an impressive guy. He's flying for United right now.
Commercial pilot?
Mm-hmm.
AFA played here a year or two before.
I was here back when Gabe Rivera was senior sack, was playing for the Red Raiders back then. I'm old, yeah.
Well, there's a great picture we had of Gabe Rivera
tackling the whole backfield. Oh. Yeah, he was a big cat. All right, guys.
Hey, Coach, in the second half, that 4th and 3 fade call. Did you call that, and why?
Yeah, so that was a kind of a split field call. We had the fade on to JB right there, and then we had a quick game concept to the left. They went cover 0 on that play, so wasn't really an option for the run on that one. And again, man, those are some scenarios where that's what you want. You want a one-on-one scenario, and we didn't win the route, and then we ended up overthrowing it a little bit. So, looking back on it, that's one of the ones you'd like the quarterback to be a little bit more patient, see that we don't win on that route, and kind of throw more of a back shoulder, because the field concept was covered up, and so he did the right thing working the one-on-one. We just got to deliver on that play.
And then there's been a lot of talk of play selection, Taj not getting the ball enough. It seems like Kansas State, they kept going with the quarterback power run with Johnson. It seems like there's been times this year that Taj goes a long time without getting the ball. I guess my question would be, why is that?
I can't speak to what Kansas State did offensively and why they did what they were doing, but again, I mean, Taj has got the 6th most carries in the country. He's 6th in the country in rushing yards. Clearly, are there times that you look back and you say, hey, maybe we should have gave him the ball here more? Yes, absolutely, but again, I don't know if what you saw. We come out the second half and they go blitz like crazy, and they're packing the box. And again, we're just not gonna just bang our head against the wall. I mean, we did a solid job running the football all night, but when you take away our 3 big rushes, I can't remember if it was 6 yards per carry or 5.8 yards per carry. But if you take those 3 huge ones away that we had, we really were 3.1 yards per carry. So. Again, we're not trying to abort the run or anything by any means, and I think part of it too is Cam got a few more snaps than normal that took some of Taj's options away. I don't know exactly how many carries Cam had, but now he had a few catches in some passing scenarios too. But I mean, definitely, man. I mean, we got to get back to Taj at times, and but again, we knew Barron was going to be out that second half and Jake was coming in. I mean, we talked about it in the locker room as a staff. They're about to probably blitz us. First snaps that young Jake has played his whole career, and they're going to try to heat us up and play cover 1 blitz or maybe even some cover 0, and that's what they did. And so we had to be able to try to hit some passes, and at times we tried to run the ball as well, and he hit a few here and there, but. And then, a little bit later, especially in the fourth quarter, it was kind of those passing scenarios that bottom line, we got to do a better job of not getting into that scenario. We've got to throw the ball at the end of the game.
Coach, I'm just curious. I know statistics don't mean as much as the win, but Taj was 2 yards away from his 5th consecutive 100-yard game. Was that a decision made by you or by him to not go back into the game and get that number?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like during the game, I had no idea where he was at statistically. Don't care about that stuff at all. Don't look at that during the game. I think at that point, I think Coach Perry had just decided to put Cam in for that particular series. And if we would have went down and scored and got the ball back, I think it would have been Taj's time back up. So I think that's really about all that went into that decision.
And with the kind of quarterback shuffle that's going on right now, how are your wide receivers feeling? Because they've had to go from Shuck now to Morton, now Morton to Strong. Obviously, Morton could be back next week, but it's just kind of that insecurity in the quarterback room can sometimes bleed into the wide receiver room. How's the wide receiver room feeling?
Yeah, I think they're feeling good, man. I mean, they had all the confidence in the world. We were in the locker room, and we knew Barron wasn't going to be able to get back out there. And so we kind of just tried to rally behind Jake and show Jake that we have confidence in him. And the good thing about Jake is he was here all spring and got a lot of reps. And, he'd been getting a lot of reps these last few weeks just because Barron was limited at times with some stuff. And so, they have confidence in him. And, sure, we haven't been throwing the ball as much, A, as we were last year, and then B, we haven't been as effective when we have thrown it this year. So, but I think, again, we got a great room of those guys, and Coach Juice is handling those guys well. And, bottom line, they're just like the rest of us. We just want to win, man, whatever it takes to win. So I don't think they're necessarily frustrated. They're definitely we got to keep working the chemistry between those guys and Jake and Barron as well. So I think that'll be more of the bigger thing moving forward.
And then Coy obviously had a great game. Is there any intention of getting him maybe more targets this next game?
Yeah, again, kind of coming into the week, we knew that we felt like those outside guys were going to be on islands a little bit more than those slots were, and a lot of the passes that we actually ended up pulling were RPO-based plays that were run-pass options, and we try to find the conflict. And when they're feeling hard at the line of scrimmage at 2 yards, we're going to pull that thing and throw. And I thought we did a good job of finding him. I thought there was one really nice play that Jake had took a 3-step drop in cover one. They blitzed him like crazy, held the safety to the backside, and ended up throwing that deep ball to Coy up our sideline for 40, 50 yards, whatever it was. And really proud of Coy, happy to see him back and healthy. And, man, that kid deserves it all, man, because when you come out to practice, there's probably not a guy on our team that practices as hard as he does, and that's what's fun to see as a coach.
Coach, on the third interception, the one that was to the end zone, was that an all-stick look, and then you had releases on the outside? What was the, I guess, idea there?
Yeah, double move scenario, and again, same type deal, just young freshman mistake. They went cover one on us, safety shaded to that hash mark. Pre-snap, it was a mirrored look, so it's what we call a best look side deal. Probably should have looked at the boundary, seen that the safety shaded to that side of the field, and again, just a kind of a rookie mistake, if you will. You know, he just stared it down, and that safety just fell right off the hash over there, right into it. And then same scenario, we didn't win on the route. So when you don't win on those go balls, you got to see that as a quarterback and go with the back shoulder versus the over the shoulder throw.
Just curious, if it is Jake this weekend, what can you do to get him into good situations? And I noticed that you were they were looking at you at the sideline. You were making the checks, I think, in the second half.
Yeah, you know, just trying to get him comfortable, you know, find the things that he's really good at, find the things that he's comfortable with, you know, again, because the things that Tyler was comfortable with, Barron wasn't. Things that Barron is, Tyler isn't, and vice versa with all these guys. Same thing with Jake, you know. So really just trying to find, you know, what he's comfortable with. And again, you know, we came in and we really had the same game plan as far as like what plays we rep during the week, because he got a lot of those plays and he was confident with it. But like you said, trying to help him out and maybe slowing the game down a little bit here and there and some of those things. But biggest thing moving forward is going to be trying to find, you know, if it has to be him this weekend, what's going to put his best foot forward where he can go win us a football game.
What do you see from BYU? Seems like they do some of the similar stuff that you've seen already.
Yeah, they're going to be a little more similar to Houston a little bit more 4 down front, but they will mix in some odd stuff a little bit here and there, kind of more off of a personnel packaging type scenarios. But their MO is stop the run. You know, I think you saw it this week against TCU. They're gonna add a hat to the box. It's going to be a not a great run box, and they're going to tell you to throw it on them. And, you know, TCU did a really good job. Thought they had a great game plan against them and were really effective moving the football. So, but they're an old group, man. They do a really good job of forcing turnovers and, you know, going to be a rowdy environment, so it should be fun.
We'll go Cole and Jeff.
Coach, where is Jake Strong's confidence level at right now?
He's pretty confident, man. Yeah, he's really kind of got that just calm and evenness about him. You know, he's never really too high or too down. You know, he threw those interceptions and came right to the sideline. Before I could even spit out what I was going to say, he's like, "Coach, safety's on the hash. I got to hold him, throw the other way." You know, he knows. And, you know, one thing I was proud of him is he came out firing, you know what I mean? And he got the ball out of his hands quickly, you know, didn't take any sacks or anything like that. So I'd say he's confident, you know, and clearly there's things that I need to do as a coach to help him get even more confident and set him up for success moving forward.
And for the rest of the offense, it's the second time this year where you weren't really sure who the quarterback was going to be going into a game. How does that change things or make it more difficult for preparation? And does it help at all having, you know, been through this a couple times already this season?
Yeah, I mean, you have to alter your plans a little bit. We're still kind of the same practice plans. I think it's more of, as coaches, how we game plan and how we try to set ourselves up for success, no matter who's at quarterback. You know, if it's Barron, great. If it's Jake, great. If it, you know, ends up having to be Brady Boyd, whatever the case may be, we've got to be ready for all situations. And so just making sure that our guys are confident in the play calls and just really ready to go Saturday, no matter who's back there at quarterback.
Coach, a lot has been made of your quarterbacks checking in to a run play or a pass play, depending on which quarterback it was. While that's part of the nature of the position of checking out, seeing what the defense is giving you and realizing that the play that is called is not going to work, of the times that they have checked into a play, whether it be a run or a pass, what percentage have you been pleased with the play they've checked into that was the right play going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really probably have a number. I mean, I think there's some good and there's some bad. I mean, I think it all just, you know, depends on the scenario and exactly what happens. You know, it may have been a bad play call, but or maybe it was a good check by the quarterback, but we just didn't execute the play properly or something like that. So I think that's more of how you got to, as a coach, that's how I look at those scenarios is, did you check it for the right reason, or are you just trying to do too much? And that's something that we talk about all the time. I think a lot of that you're seeing is I'm really trying to get these guys to see good run boxes and check some runs versus more check passes. Now, I know Barron in the first half had a couple pass checks where he checked some passes again when they're all bringing guys in there, and he checked a couple pass plays and did a good job. The deep corner to Xavier White that almost scored a touchdown was a check by him, passing the ball right there. He had another one that he threw the ball on their sideline to Dre McCray. So again, I think there's going to be some good, there's going to be some bad, but I think for the most part, our guys are doing a good job of at least checking for the right reasons, not just checking to check plays.
And from the fan perspective, it feels like that both times this year where whoever the number 2 guy was at quarterback, when he was thrust into action in the middle of the game, that while the game plan is obviously going to change, but it went from having success at running the football to let's air it out and that getting you guys in trouble on offense. Is there something to these guys coming in and maybe not taking the deep shot? You're looking for quick passes, continue running the football to let them ease into the game a little bit?
Yeah, again, I mean, I think the defense is going to dictate a lot of those things. You know what I mean? Again, I mean, if you really look at it on paper, how great were we really running the football in the first half, besides a couple explosive runs, that's part of it too. But again, we knew coming out in the first couple drives there, the second half, they were going to heat us up and add hats to the box and go cover 1 blitz like crazy or cover 0 blitz like crazy too. So we've got to try to get into successful plays and not just do one or the other, maybe not run it or maybe not just throw the ball as well. So, I think that's the bigger thing for me, as a coach, is trying to get my guys plays that are going to be successful and not just saying, hey, we got to run the ball to run the ball, or hey, we got to pass the ball to pass the ball. Is what is the defense doing that we need to execute against to be successful to move the ball downfield?
Coach, you and you've already touched on this a little bit about how Tyler's not Barron and Barron's not Jake and vice versa, but we only know half of a game for Jake, and him best out of all of us. And seeing him throughout the spring, what do you feel like his actual strong suit is in every perfect scenario? We know what he did wrong, but what do you see that he's good at?
Yeah, again, I think he did a good job, and one thing he's good at is his like rhythm throws. So finding those timing throws, so your out routes, your hitches, your what we call stop routes. Again, I thought he did a really good job of getting the fade ball up and down. And again, he's a smart guy that loves football. He's a football junkie, like I've said before. I was up here all day yesterday, already working on BYU, studying those guys, and same kind of thing today. So, but again, as a young guy, you're almost always gonna find minor things that you gotta clean up. He's got to work on his feet some more and being a little bit cleaner in the pocket at times. But again, I thought he did a really good job of coming out and firing when he needed to fire and handing the ball off when we felt like we did have some good boxes to hand the ball off in.
Coach, you talked about how compact the box K-State had. We saw some gate formations, kind of trickery, that kind of stuff. Was that to try and spread them out? And is that something we can expect to see more of going forward?
Yeah, whenever we looked at them guys this last week, inside the 5-yard line, they allowed 1 touchdown all year. They were really, really stout inside the 5. 3 of 13 touchdowns in the red zone going into the game. So we knew getting down there was going to be tough, and we actually did a good job when we got in the red zone against those guys. Other than the last that 1 interception that we threw down there, but just thought we had a couple good plays in there, and we had the one that I really thought we should have scored on. Thought we were pretty soft in the perimeter by 2 of our guys out there. We had the right look for it. We had 4 over 4, and we really had 5 over 4 to throw that ball to X White that he almost got in the end zone on. But yeah, you may see some of those things moving forward. Just kind of depends week by week. And again, those guys were really, really stout in the run game, and it was kind of the only touchdown they had given up all year inside the 5 was kind of a trickeration type play. And so those guys do a really good job on 3rd and short. So that's why we kind of had a couple of those things.
And you talked about how TCU had their way with BYU's defense. They did so with Josh Hoover, which was his first ever career start. Does that maybe give you some confidence if it is indeed Jake Strong?
I mean, I wouldn't say that because Josh Hoover had a good game, I'm confident with Jake. I mean, I'm going to be confident with Jake because I think Jake Strong's a really good player, and he's going to work at it. And again, I have a lot of confidence in him and this football team, man. I mean, our guys come to work every day and they believe in each other and they believe in what we're doing. So that's the main reason why we have confidence if it is Jake on Saturday.